In the quiet town of Willow Creek, nestled in the rolling hills of Kentucky, lived a woman named Sarah Jenkins. She was 38, with soft brown hair that fell in gentle waves to her shoulders, and eyes the color of fresh spring leaves. Sarah worked at the local community center, teaching yoga classes in the mornings and helping with after-school programs for kids in the afternoons. Her voice was always calm, like a soft breeze rustling through leaves, and she smiled easily, making everyone feel at ease. The town folks knew her as the kind soul who baked apple pies for the firehouse fundraisers and volunteered at the animal shelter on weekends. It was a peaceful life, one that suited Sarah just fine after years of moving around. Willow Creek had wide streets lined with maple trees that turned gold in the fall, and a small river that murmured softly as it wound through the outskirts. Mornings started with the sun peeking over the hills, casting a warm glow on the old brick buildings downtown. Sarah's home was a cozy cottage on Elm Street, with a porch swing that creaked gently in the wind. She would sit there at dawn, sipping black coffee from a chipped mug, watching the world wake up. Birds chirped in the branches above, and the distant hum of a tractor reminded her of simpler times. But beneath that serene exterior, Sarah carried memories that few in town could imagine. She didn't talk much about her past, preferring to let the days unfold slowly, like pages in a well-worn book. Her friends, like old Mrs. Harlan from next door, often said Sarah was too gentle for the world's harsher edges. "You're like a flower in a storm, dear," Mrs. Harlan would say, patting Sarah's hand. Soft-hearted and kind, Sarah would just nod and smile, changing the subject to the weather or the latest town gossip. One crisp autumn evening, as the leaves crunched underfoot and the air smelled of wood smoke, trouble stirred in Willow Creek. A group of outsiders had rolled into town, rough men in battered trucks, claiming to be loggers from up north. But whispers spread quickly. They were troublemakers, involved in shady deals, maybe even running drugs through the back roads. The sheriff, a burly man named Tom Riley, kept an eye on them. But the town was small, and resources were thin. It started small. A few break-ins at farms on the edge of town, tools stolen, fences cut. Then, one night, the community center was vandalized, a window smashed, graffiti scrawled on the walls. Sarah arrived early the next morning to find the mess. Glass shards glittered on the floor like fallen stars, and the yoga mats were torn to shreds. Her heart sank, but she didn't panic. Instead, she rolled up her sleeves and started cleaning, humming a soft tune to steady herself. Word got around, and soon a group of locals gathered to help. Among them was Jake Thompson, a former Marine who ran the hardware store. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with a no-nonsense attitude honed from his days in the service. Jake had always been protective of Sarah, seeing her as the town's gentle spirit. "This is no place for you to be dealing with this mess," he said, his voice gruff as he swept up the debris. "These guys are dangerous. You should stay home until the sheriff sorts it out." Sarah paused, wiping sweat from her brow. "I appreciate the concern, Jake, but this center is important to me, to all of us." Her words were measured, each one landing softly, like rain on a tin roof. Jake shook his head, frustration creasing his forehead. "Look, Sarah, you're great with the kids in the classes, but combat, facing down thugs? You're too soft for that. Let the men handle it." He didn't mean it unkindly, but the words hung in the air, heavy and unspoken judgments from others nodding along. The relatable problem was clear. In a world that valued toughness as brute strength, Sarah's quiet demeanor made her seem vulnerable, easily dismissed. The group murmured agreement. Even young Lisa from the bakery chimed in. "Yeah, Sarah, we don't want you getting hurt. You're like the heart of this place." Sarah felt a familiar pang at the underestimation that followed her like a shadow. It wasn't new, she'd heard it before, in different places, under different skies. But she pushed it down, focusing on the task at hand. They worked through the day, boarding up windows, painting over the ugly words. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the room, Sarah suggested they take a break. "How about some coffee?" she said, her voice steady. That night, as Sarah sat on her porch swing, the creek echoing in the stillness, she thought about Jake's words. The moon hung full and bright, bathing the yard in silver light. Crickets sang their nightly chorus, a soothing rhythm that matched her breathing. She wasn't angry, she understood. People saw what they expected: a soft woman in a small town, living a simple life. But inside, she carried a strength forged in fire, hidden away like a secret garden. The trouble escalated a few days later. The outsiders, emboldened, targeted the river bridge at the only way in and out for the eastern farms. They set up a blockade, demanding tolls from anyone passing, their trucks parked menacingly across the road. The sheriff called for backup from the county, but it would take hours. In the meantime, a storm was brewing, dark clouds rolling in from the west, promising heavy rain that could flood the lowlands. Jake rallied a few men from town, including some veterans like himself. They met at the diner, mats spread on the table, voices low and urgent. Sarah overheard as she picked up sandwiches for the group. "We can't wait," Jake said, pounding a fist lightly on the table. "Those farmers need supplies." "We'll go in careful, but firm." Sarah approached quietly. "Let me help," she said, setting down the tray. The men looked up, surprise etching their faces. "No offense, Sarah," Jake replied, his tone gentle but firm, "but this could get rough." "Fists, maybe worse." "You're too soft for combat." "Stay here, keep the home fires burning." The words stung, but Sarah met his gaze evenly. Rain began to patter on the diner's roof, a soft drumbeat building atmosphere. Thunder rumbled in the distance, like a warning. She could feel the emotional depth of the moment had the weight of being underestimated, the quiet resolve bubbling inside her. "Jake," she said slowly, her voice cutting through the murmurs, "you don't know everything about me." With that, she rolled up the sleeve of her flannel shirt, revealing her left forearm. There, inked in bold green and black, was a tattoo, the crossed arrows and dagger of the Green Beret, with the words "De Oppresso Libera" arched above. The room fell silent, save for the rain now pouring steadily outside. Jake's eyes widened. "What? How?" Sarah took a deep breath, the air thick with the scent of coffee and wet earth drifting in from the open door. This was the gentle twist, unfolding like a flower in the dawn light. "I served," she said simply. U.S. Army Special Forces, Green Beret, joined right after high school, back when women were just starting to break through and support trolls, but I pushed for more. Trained in the shadows, qualified in 18, deployed to places I can't name, did things that still wake me up at night. The men leaned in, the diner's fluorescent lights buzzing softly overhead. Sarah continued, her words paced for the narration of her life. "I was the one they called too soft back then, too. Looked like I belonged in a library, not the field. But I proved them wrong. Led teams through jungles and deserts, freed villages from tyrants. That motto ate to free the oppressed, it's in my blood now." A pause hung in the air, natural and reflective, as thunder cracked closer. Emotional depth swelled. Sarah's eyes glistened, not with tears, but with the raw truth of her past. "I left after 10 years. Wanted peace, found it here in Willow Creek. But that doesn't mean the fire's gone out." Jake sat back, respect dawning on his face like the sun after a storm. "I had no idea." "Why didn't you say?" Sarah smiled faintly, rolling her sleeve back down. "Didn't need to." "Until now." With the revelation settling like mist over the river, the group shifted gears. Sarah took charge subtly, her voice calm but authoritative. "We don't go in guns blazing," she said. "That's not smart. We use the terrain. The rain will make the ground slick. Give us cover. Flank them from the woods. Create a diversion." They listened, the relatable problem transforming into unity. Sarah's softness wasn't weakness, it was a veil over steel. As they geared up, rain hammering the windows, the atmosphere built a tension mixed with newfound trust. At the bridge, under the cover of night and storm, they moved like ghosts. Sarah led a small team through the trees, her steps sure despite the mud sucking at their boots. Lightning flashed, illuminating the blockade. 3 trucks, 5 men huddled under tarps, laughing crudely. The diversion worked. Jake's group honked horns from the road, drawing attention. Sarah's team slipped behind, disabling the trucks quietly, slashed tires, disconnected batteries. When the outsiders realized, it was too late. Sarah stepped forward, rain streaming down her face, her voice cutting through the downpour. "This ends now. Leave, or face the law." One man lunged, but Sarah sidestepped smoothly, using his momentum to flip him into the mud. The others hesitated, seeing the resolve in her eyes, not rage, but unyielding strength. They scattered, trucks abandoned, fleeing into the night. Back in town, as the storm cleared and stars peeked through ragged clouds, the group gathered at the diner again. Warm lights glowed, steam rising from mugs. Jake clapped Sarah on the back. "You saved us tonight." "I was wrong." Sarah shook her head. "We did it together." Strength isn't just muscle, it's heart, too. The ending came satisfying and emotionally grounded. Sarah returned to her porch swing the next morning, coffee in hand, the world fresh after the rain. Birds sang brighter, the river flowed stronger. She traced her tattoo absent-mindedly, a reminder of battles past and peace earned. Willow Creek saw her differently now, not too soft, but perfectly balanced. And in that quiet dawn, Sarah felt whole, her story woven into the town's fabric, a testament to hidden depths.